Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am working on some more quilt blocks. They're very scrappy quilt blocks because our next project will be a lamb. One of our visitors asked about a lamb, and so I came up with one. But we need some more quilt blocks, right? So I found a different way to make them, and I wanted to show you what I'm doing. This was made with just squares all over the place. I'm going to show you how I did this, but with strips. So I've been cutting strips, and to keep things simple, I'm just doing 2-inch strips, but they can be any size strips. The most important thing is the technique. No matter how you put the scrappy piece together, it will be the technique. Like here's some squares we can use. My friend Becky gifted me a basket of fabric. Look how pretty. So pretty. So we'll be working out of this basket today. All kinds. This one is really pretty too. So I'll just be grabbing some fabrics. And here's another stack that I got from her. We'll just be grabbing fabric from that. Here is one block that I've already made that we're going to use for our technique. This is an 8.5-inch block. What you're going to need is a cutting mat, rotary cutter. I'm using my Fiskars cutter here. I've used this in other videos. I'll link this I will link this in the description box below. But the fun part of today's technique is I just have some newsprint paper here. I saw some other people using regular printer paper, and I'm sure that will work. But I had a stack of this from when I did paper crafting. It's really thin, so I think it'll work. I will link something similar in the description box below that you could get on Amazon, and perhaps you could find it locally. But I trimmed this to 8.5 by 8.5, and what we're going to do is you'll cut a 2-inch strip. Put the paper over here for now. Be sure to keep all your little pieces so you can use that for stuffing. And now I want a 2-inch strip. So I'll just bring it over here. And you know on my channel, nothing has to be exact. We'll make it work. A little scrap. And here's a 2-inch strip. We'll take our piece of paper. And remember, I'm using 8.5 by 8.5. You can use any size you want. Make this technique your own. We'll move this out of the way. We'll put our paper here. We are going to lay this anywhere you want it. But I'm just trying to make it simple so you can get started with this technique. Then we're going to take it to the sewing machine. Just a regular stitch, but I did change my stitch length to 2 because we're using paper. But otherwise, 1/4-inch seam allowance all the way down. And then you'll need one more strip. Let's see if I can find one that I've got cut here. Not quite long enough. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to connect 2 like this and just sew here, and we have a long enough strip. We'll lay that on top of that one, and if you want you can go ahead and trim this. Throw that in the scrap, trim at this end. All right, we're ready to take this to the sewing machine. And again, 1/4-inch seam allowance from one end to the other, right sides together on the paper. Then we'll come over here, flip up this, press with your seam presser, or if you want to take it to the iron, you can. We'll need another strip. I've got another strip here that I just cut. I'll give it a quick press. This will go on the edge of that seam, like that. And again, sew 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down on the paper. Here it is from the machine, 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. I'm just grabbing that, flipping it up, and press. You can make quilt blocks really fast with this method. Trim that. And now we need another piece of fabric. And you'll just want to make sure when you lay it on there and you flip it up kind of, you can see that it is going to be covering. Back to the sewing machine. I'm just back from the sewing machine, 1/4 inch seam allowance, flip it up. And now I just need a little piece for right here. We'll put that there and sew, flip. One side is done. We're gonna turn this around and go this way. And I'm just cutting another strip, going through this beautiful fabric. This one will need a little trimming. There we go. Just like that. Out of the sewing machine, flip it up. That one's really pretty, isn't it? I'm going to give this a quick press. Put that right there. Back to the sewing machine. We're out of the sewing machine. Flip that up. And then we just need a little piece for right there. We'll use that one. But just imagine if you just did a couple of these blocks each night, you'd have enough to make a quilt. I'm not even worried about my strings on the edge because now it is time to trim. So we'll bring back our cutting mat. We want it trimmed at 8.5, but it's so easy to trim because you've got your piece of paper right on the back. So we'll just put this under here. It's already clear, or you can use a rotary cutter as well. And see how all the strings got cut? So there is our block, and here is the fun part. You can rip the paper off, and it comes off pretty easy. And then what I do is I come in like this. And it tears pretty easy. Plus, it's a lot of fun. There you have it. I'm going to give this a quick press, get rid of my paper here. And now you're probably asking, well, Jackie, those are just quilt blocks. Just ordinary quilt blocks. Well, let me show you the magic. There we go. We're going to put these right side together, just like that. And we are going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. Yes, we're going to enclose it. So go ahead and do that. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Yeah, we're a little off here, but I'm always off on these things, right? But 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. All right. Now we've sewn all the way around. Grab a ruler if you have one, or any straight edge. And we're going to make a crisscross with our marking pen. From corner to corner. Before we do anything, we're going to snip those corners, but don't get into the seam. But each corner, go ahead and snip there. Just reduce a little bulk. I've got my really sharp scissors. I've got my seam ripper, and I'm trying to find the center mark. And I think it was right here. So I'm going to separate our two pieces here and then find that center where I made a mark. There we go. I think it's right there. Make sure I don't go through the other side, and just make a little slit so that I can get my scissors in there. And you're going to cut along all of the lines, but not into your seam, just up to the seam. If you've seen square in a square, it's kind of like that. All right, are you ready? Here we go. And you may need to trim a little more if you didn't get all the way up to the seam. And here's our next side. And again, I might have to cut just a little more up here. Here we go. And we have a whole different block. Isn't that amazing? And that's what I wanted to show you. I'm going to press this real quick. So there you have it. What you do want to do is trim these little nubs off. And if you remember, we started out at 8.5 inches, right? Now we have a 11.25 inch square. Yes, we do. 11.25. So how fun is that? So there's another idea to whip out those faux cutter quilt blocks. So now I have two that I can put together. Let me know what you think. If you have questions, please let me know in the comments, and I will try to answer them. I appreciate you watching so much. And until the next video, God bless.